So I grew up playing a lot of chess, going to tournaments, studying openings for hours and hours every night, studying end games, playing in the chess club. I mean, I was like a giga nerd, okay? I went to a ton of tournaments. I got a ton of trophies and things all through the scholastic time that I was going to the tournaments, and I have them somewhere. I think they're in a box at my parents' house. I just like, what am I going to do with them? Like, put them back there? I'm like, I don't know what to do with them. So I think they're somewhere in an attic somewhere. But I wanted to talk about it because it was a really interesting thing to be into. Of course, like chess now is actually relatively popular. If you go onto Twitch or Kick or YouTube or wherever you're streaming, you can find a lot of streamers playing chess, and it's gotten bigger and bigger and bigger over the last like 5-6 years. I think some streamers like Hikaru Nakamura have done great work to kind of popularize it again. Netflix shows like Queen's Gambit have helped a lot. But when I was playing chess in like the late 2000s, early 20 teens predominantly, it was like an easy way to be socially outcast. Like if somebody found out you were on the chess team, you were like the giga nerd that nobody took seriously. And it was funny because I played in the chess club because I had been a homeschooled kid, and I found that I was kind of good at chess. I mean, apparently, according to my parents, I learned to play chess when I was like 3 years old, which now that I have an almost 2-year-old is just crazy to me that at 3 years old I was able to play chess. Like, that's just ridiculous. But I only got into tournaments years and years later because my dad moved around so much. I wasn't really able to start going to tournaments until we got some stability and moved somewhere. We had a house in Texas we were at for a while, didn't play there, but then we moved to Minnesota and Kansas and all over the place. And then eventually we settled in Colorado for, I think it was like 6-7 years after that. It was like 2006 to 2011. And then we moved back to Texas for a year, and then we moved back to Colorado. So we were all over the place. But I remember once we settled down, I was able to go to like a chess club. I was able to play some people that were pretty good, and that kind of piqued my interest. And I think part of this, like if you guys are not aware, I'm one of 10 kids. So I have 9 siblings. And I think the reason I got so into chess when I did was because it was a chance for me to get attention, and like really positive attention from my parents for something I was doing, and only me. It wasn't like I was going and I was doing something with my siblings where we'd have to share the attention. Like if I played chess and I did well and I won the trophy, my parents would be really proud of me, and they would talk me up to their friends, and they'd make Facebook posts about me, and it made me feel really, really special. And when you're one of 10 kids, you don't have that like constant attention, so you start to seek it out. And some students, or rather some kids, certainly seek that attention out in negative ways and might just act out or get pregnant or something, like just some way to get that attention in any way they can. But for me, I tended to find that attention through trying to excel at things that I was already good at, because it wasn't that difficult to excel at things I was good at. And I happened to be decently good at chess. So I started studying, I started practicing a lot. I started going to tournaments that my dad would take me to, and he would sit in, usually like if it was at a school, he would go and he'd set up at one of the tables in the cafeteria of the school. And then maybe the games were happening in the gymnasium of the school. They had all these tables set up with all the chess sets, and so you go in there. A typical tournament was like 5 rounds. It was a round robin, maybe, or like a Swiss. It just depended on the tournament. But you'd go and you would play 5 games in a day. Student scholastic tournaments were usually like 30-minute time control. So 30 minutes for each player. One game's going to take an hour. You get through 5 of those in a day. Pretty easy. 3 in the morning, lunch, 2 in the afternoon. One and done. Nice. They were pretty straightforward tournaments, and I usually performed decently well. I won a handful of them, would get in top 5 usually. Sometimes tiebreakers would screw you, but I had a good time, and I met some interesting people that went to some local schools. I ended up playing chess for a chess team under the Ridgeview Classical School banner, which I already did a story time discussing that whole experience of going to that school. But I knew people that went to that school, and I played on their chess team for a while before I started going to that school. And we were pretty good. We went to Super Nationals, which is a thing they do like every 5 years. It sounds made up, but it's in Nashville, Tennessee. And every 5 years, it's like the big super giga national tournament where all the best student and basically under 18 players in the country go and play against each other to figure out who's the best. And while I never approached the area where I was like one of the top, 50 or 100 players in the country, I was usually, if I recall correctly, in the top like 500, top 300, depending. As like my big thing was just that I wasn't, basically when players start to get really good at chess, it's usually around high school. Sometimes there's people that get even, way better even earlier. At this point, if you're not a grandmaster, if you're not one of the world's elite by the time you're 14 or 15, you're never going to compete on the world stage. It's just that competitive. You have to be hardwired for chess, basically. But for me, like I was at the point where I could play competitively on a state level in a state like Colorado and do pretty well, not win any like crazy titles or anything, but I could do well. What happened for me though is I discovered like musical theater, and I realized that there were a lot of cute girls that were in theater. And so I started doing theater around junior year of high school. And by senior year of high school, I had pretty much put chess entirely on pause, and I was just doing theater stuff, and I was getting really into gaming and making like little YouTube videos and stuff. And that started to command all of my attention. And so chess took a back seat. It's not that I didn't still like chess. It's not like I hated chess. In fact, the last tournament I played in, I had actually performed better than I had ever performed before. I was playing at a very high level, like 200-300 points above where my rating was at that point. And if I had still gone to tournaments and if I had grinded that rating all the way up, I would have had a title within no time and, would have been having a really, really good time. But for me at that point in my life, it just wasn't what was interesting me. I just wasn't that captivated. So I walked away, and for a handful of years, graduated high school, started going to community college, then went to full university and started working, and all the while doing the YouTube thing. And I'd say in the last 6 months, I've actually had the itch to go back to chess again. I've wanted to go back and play it, kind of get refreshed. And I will say it's been an adjustment. Like I don't know if other people are like this, but I can feel a difference in how I think when I'm playing chess actively and when I'm not. Like how I feel about it is like playing chess for me is almost like a really good stretch for my brain. It makes me feel really nimble, and I feel like I can think quickly and pivot around a bunch of different ideas and concepts and think spatially really well. And when I don't play chess for an extended period of time, my brain feels cloudy. It's hard to explain, but I can feel a difference in how I process information when I'm playing a lot of chess, maybe for half an hour a night, and then when I'm not. It's weird. I don't know if that's just me, but that's just something I've experienced. And so going back to chess is almost like a weird drug where I play some chess and it makes my brain feel like it's operating faster, and I feel like all the connections are just tighter. It's really, really fascinating. I don't know. Maybe that means I have brain cancer. I have no idea, but it's just my experience. But I've been interested in returning to it and getting back into it. I've always struggled with openings. That's always been my weak point. My approach in tournaments was always I had really good attention spans usually. So I would play these college students, or I'd play these other high school students or middle schoolers or whatever. And I would just try to stretch the game as long as I could. I remember my dad would always get frustrated because he would be like, okay, when you get out, so the game's starting at 11, you're going to get out at noon. So if you get out early, we're going to go and grab some pizza or something, or go by McDonald's and get a sandwich, whatever it was. And I would always go to the very last moment. I would always be the last game in the hall. It was just the thing. If you're playing Luke, bring some water, get ready, because he's going to take you all the way to the end of the time control. And it was because the way one of my chess coaches once described it to me was that I played like a python or like a boa constrictor, where I would just play really solid chess, play something really slow like the English or something. And I would just take it really, really slow. And then I would position my stuff well. And then I would just slowly squeeze. And then because these were students who usually didn't have very good attention spans, they would start to miss stuff. They'd start to screw up. They wouldn't think things through long term. They would start to play recklessly because they just wanted the game to be over. And I could usually win that way. Nowadays, playing other adults and stuff, it doesn't really work. So I've had to kind of adjust my strategies and things as I've gotten back into chess, which has been really, really interesting because my old style of gameplay I don't find as compelling nowadays as I did back then, which is just interesting to me. I mean, I remember one time that strategy really worked. There was a kid I was playing at, I think maybe the Colorado Open, and his name was Brady. And he was a pretty solid player. I mean, I think at the time we were probably maybe sophomores or freshmen in high school. And he was probably like a 17 something hundred. I was a 17 something hundred. And it was a classical time control, so there was plenty of time. I mean, this was going to be like full time control. This game could go 5 to 6 hours. I mean, long games. And this kid had pretty extreme ADHD, was super twitchy, was super energized all the time, and just needed to move. Like he'd sit on the chair like a gargoyle while playing you. And it was very noticeable. He was uncomfortable staying for long periods of time. So for him, I played one of the slowest games I've ever played. And I remember at one point, it was his turn. He had like maybe 100 minutes on the clock. It was relatively early. We hadn't reached time control yet. But he had like an hour and a half basically on his clock. And I remember he looked at the position. He was looking at it for like 5-10 minutes. And he's like, and he just got up and left. I was like, is he going to the bathroom? Does he have like diarrhea or something? What's happening? He just got up and left. And I looked out the window because it was at a hotel. And there was a window there to the kind of lawns in front of the hotel. And I just see him sprinting. Like he just sprints to a tree in the distance, running around. He like picks up a football on the ground and throws it to who I think was his dad. And then his dad throws it back to him. And for like 5-10 minutes, the dude's just like sprinting around outside, throwing the football, burning energy. And I was really weirded out by it. I was like, is he cheating? Is he going out there and talking the position through with his dad? Like, what is this? And he had left his game notation. He had left the notation there. He didn't bring anything with him. He didn't have a phone or anything. So I was like, maybe he just kind of memorized the position in his head and he brought it out. And now he's describing it to his dad or whatever. But like his dad also played in the tournament and was like an 800. So I'm like, he's probably not a great person to bounce ideas off of. So I was really weirded out by it. And I remember I was already feeling really good about the game. Like I said, he was really fidgety. And after a while, at this point, I remember maybe it was like just 10 minutes. It felt like an eternity of him out there. I was just baffled. But eventually he came back in. He had burned some energy. And then he made a handful of moves after that. The game went on for maybe another 15 minutes. And then he resigned and left. It was really weird. It was really weird, but you meet some weird people at these chess tournaments. I'll tell you what, one guy, I don't know if he's still around. His name was like something Buchanan. I can't remember his full name, but this guy, he was very nice, very sweet, but he was a well-endowed man in the midsection. He was like balding and had long kind of scraggly hair. Balding on top, and it was like long and greasy, went down to like his shoulder blades. Super thick Dwight Schrute looking glasses, super thick. I mean, you could basically, it would bend space-time around his head. You know those glasses that are so thick you can like see around? You can kind of see here, but like it pulls my face out a little bit through the lens. For him, it would like warp the light behind his head around. Like you could see behind him by looking at his glasses. They were so thick. And his thing is that he would come to these nice tournaments at nice hotels, like the DoubleTree in Denver or something. and he would walk around the hotel completely barefoot with like long golem looking feet, long fingernails, everything, or toenails, I guess. And he'd go to the bathroom, the men's room, barefoot, walking around. And of course, he never washed his hands or anything. But he's a very sweet guy. You just don't shake his hand or walk where he's been walking. But there were a lot of very eccentric people like that at those chess tournaments. But it was, it made the events more colorful, a little more interesting. And when I think back to all of that, now I think I can process and understand why I played chess. I was doing it to get attention and validation from my parents because there were a lot of kids in the family and I couldn't feel validated unless I was really good at something. And I was good at chess, so I chased that feeling. I chased that high. And once I got the opportunity to get validation and attention from some other facet of my life through theater, through playing video games, making friends and having a girlfriend and all of that, I didn't feel the need to get that high again. And so I didn't need to get it from chess. But now I just miss the game. I miss the game, but for a healthy reason I want to play it. I'm not playing it to get validation from somebody. I'm playing it just because I want to play it. And I think that that's one of the interesting things about a lot of kids that play chess, at least when I was in it. A lot of us were doing it for similar reasons. One of my best buddies in high school that at one time almost kicked out my bottom teeth because we were in a Krav Maga class and he wasn't paying attention, and so he kneed me right in the chin. Maybe I'll add that to I'm going to add to my to-do list, story time, chin incident. I'll tell you that story. Almost knocked all 4 of these bottom teeth out. It was a whole thing. But he was a guy named Dennis, very good friend. I don't really keep up with him, but he was just a total sweetheart and brilliant. But his older brother, a guy named Artyom, freakishly intelligent. We all played on the chess club or chess team together. But Artyom would go on, like by junior year of high school, he had already completed every math class that the school offered, and he was going to CSU to take their math classes, or the university in this city. And by senior year, he had finished all of the math classes that CSU offered, is my understanding of how it broke down. Like, freakishly intelligent. Scary smart. Now he's off like creating some sort of weird ChatGPT brain dance, whatever. I don't even know. I'm sure I wouldn't even understand it, but he was freakishly brilliant, like actual giga genius. Okay. And I think for Dennis, growing up in the shadow of that being his older brother, Dennis was brilliant in his own right, but not with math, not to that ridiculous extent. And so Dennis, I think, played chess for similar reasons to what I was doing, because it gave him validation from his family and friends because he was really good at chess. But Artyom played it, but wasn't anywhere near as good as Dennis was. And so I think it's really fascinating to look back and see how many kids I was playing with that played chess really competitively were doing it for probably bad reasons or negative reasons. They were trying to find something in chess or the results of their chess playing that they weren't getting in their personal life. And it's just fascinating. And I think that's probably true of a lot of like prodigies in different sports or different ventures, but it was definitely true in chess. It was definitely true. There were a lot of people that played for weird and probably bad reasons, but it was a good time. All told, I really enjoyed playing chess. I may have gotten some jokes poked at me for being on the chess team, but again, I'm thankful for what it helped me get. I think I wouldn't be where I am now if chess had not trained me to think really critically, to carefully analyze. People have been telling me since I was like 12 that I'm very mature for my age. And I really do think that it's mainly because of me playing chess from such an early age, where I, from being a toddler, basically had my brain kind of wired to the point where I would consider carefully outcomes of decisions before making those decisions. And that sort of impulse control is not something that kids are usually very good at, which is a mark of immaturity. But when you play a lot of chess at a very young age, the whole game is about evaluating, if I do this, what will they do? What is the outcome? I don't like that outcome, so I'm going to do this other thing that has a more preferable outcome. That's chess. And so being raised playing chess, I think, helped me get my brain wired in a way where I avoided a lot of those impulsive decisions that got a lot of other people my age in a lot of trouble. Which is why, like, I'm going to have my kids learn to play chess, because I just think it's good for them to have a game that reinforces healthy thinking habits, frankly. And the other thing I think it really helped me with is a longer attention span. Obviously, I've made crazy huge videos on this channel, and we're pumping out more and more stuff every day. And I think that attention span and work ethic came, for one, from my time in a classical high school, but it also came from growing up playing 5-6 hour chess games and tournaments. Granted, seeking approval from my parents, but nonetheless, I was still doing it in a way where I had built up this tolerance for long attention span activities, which, again, not many kids have. Most kids nowadays, especially, you see them, are all about TikTok and just scrolling. 5-second videos is the max that they can pay attention to. Whereas I was able to sit down and play a 60-year-old man in a 6-hour game of chess and hold up just fine without any issue. And I'm very thankful for that. I think it was good for me in the long run to push myself in that way. But I plan to play a lot more chess in the coming weeks, months, years. One of my New Year's resolutions was to play in a tournament before the end of this year. I still plan on doing that. So when that happens, I probably will announce it on stream, and we'll start training. We'll probably spend an hour a stream or something playing some chess, doing some prep, because it's been a while. At this point, I don't even know how many years it's been. It's probably, it's been close to a decade probably since I played in a tournament, realistically. Probably about 10 years, I would think. So I don't know how it'll go. And even if I play very, very poorly, I'm just excited to get back in that saddle and see what it's like all over again. Luckily, my brother Timmy still plays a lot of chess. He just went to a tournament a few months ago and placed, I think, second, I believe. So he's done really, really well. And I can't wait to get into it. But let me know if you play chess, if you'd be interested in watching me prepare for those tournaments on stream, or if that's even something that is interesting. But yeah, chess, play it, says Luke. Thanks for listening to this story time, this ramble of random chess nonsense. I appreciate every single one of you. Have a wonderful rest of your day. I'll see you in the next video. Hugs and kisses. Bye-bye. He took my thing.